Shelby was very busy. He started his own car company, and last week we talked about the very first Cobra, and we've got the very first race car Cobra. And he was racing in USRRC, United States Road Racing, in the United States, but he also wanted to win the World Manufacturers Championship, so he's racing in FIA in Europe. So he had that going, and then Ford, in the beginning of the 65 season, turned over the GT40 program to him, so he's a very busy guy. So he's doing GT40s, USRRC Cobras and European Cobras and so on. But he had a friend that worked at the Ford Motor Company, a guy by the name of Lee Iacocca. Everybody knows. Yeah. And he was a senior manager at Ford, and his project was the Mustang. And you remember the Mustang came out in 64.5, and it was a notchback, and it was a secretary's car.
Yeah, it was actually built on a very mundane car. Right. It was, Ford said you can build it, but make it cheap, and that's what they did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Carroll was, he was so successful in racing that Iacocca went to him and he says, "Is there any way, you can turn my Mustang into a race car?" And initially, Carroll resisted, but Iacocca was persistent, and he was a good friend of Carroll's, and so the result was that Iacocca gave him some of the fastbacks, the 65 fastbacks that were, going to come out in 65. So he gave them to him at the end of the 64, and Carroll turned him into a SCCA racer. And he built 36 what are known as R models, which obviously continue today, right, in 2017. So here's an example of one of the 36. And the first race that they went to was in Green Valley, Texas, with the R model, and of course the car won because you had these American hot rodders, and when you homologated a car for SCCA, you had to pick. You kind of had to do a balance of a little bit of engine work, a little bit of suspension work, and so on. It had to be a certain weight to get it homologated. So this is one of the R models in 65. They obviously won the SCCA championship in 65 and also in 66 and in 67.
So how much is this worth?
Well, our models are about $1 million now in that range.
And can you get them? I mean, do they come up for auction?
They do.
Yeah,
they do. There were 2 factory team cars.
Yeah.
And then these a total of 36 or so cars built, and the rest of them were customer cars.
So that's a pretty unique and valuable car. What did Shelby do to make it?
Well, you can actually see. That's a very good question. If you look on the wall there, we reproduced this. This was in one of the magazines back in 65. You can see the black and white picture up there. That's everything he did to it. That's everything he did to it.
That's a lot.
We reproduced it here. So lost the back seat, the brakes, the conies, high-rise manifold, the headers. The front
looks like a 4-barrel carburetor.
Yeah, the Holly, the whole 9 yards.
How much more power do they have?
I'm not exactly certain, but probably 50 or
50
so.
More horsepower.
50 plus
so
horsepower.
it wasn't huge power, but it was certainly much more racetrack worthy car.
Exactly.
And it looked badass.
And it looked good.
It looked good.
And then here's a really nice example. This guy. So this is one of the street cars.
Okay.
And this is what you could buy at the dealership. In 1965, so you see it has a full bumper and so on, and this is an unusual car in that this was a car that was equipped with Holly or Weber carburetors.
I got it.
Put this up here.
Yep. Downdraft carburetors.
Yeah. So this has the Webers similar to what the Cobras ran in competition, but you can also all your Shelby aficionados are looking at this and say, wait a minute, that has a glossy, the black is too glossy, that's not the way it was. But actually Ford acquired this car in the 70s and restored it, and it became a show car.
Oh, that's why it's so nice.
And they did a restoration on it, and they were interested in making it look really good.
Now this one looks like it's been a little bit more beat up because you can see the road chips on it. It looks like it hasn't been restored. Tell me about this car.
Okay, well this is a 1967 GT350 that's owned by the original family. It's been passed down since new.
Wow.
And this is a classic survivor car.
Okay.
In that it's beat up. And then again, the Shelby aficionados will say, well, wait a minute, the stripe's the wrong color. But in fact, this was a dealer installed stripe, and in 1967, this is the color it was.
All right, let's keep going. Now this is certainly not something I'm used to seeing. This is not a Mustang. So tell me about this. I know nothing about this car. I love the huge air intakes, but that's about all I can see on it.
This is a Thunderbolt.
Okay.
And this is a factory drag car, and they made them in two different colors. You could get them in maroon, or you could get them in this white. And this has, super light aluminum fenders and so on.
I love the air intakes in the inside headlight.
Yeah, that's right out of the.
They've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
And is this Shelby as well?
No, this is not a Shelby.
Okay, this is not Shelby.
But it's got a 427 in it, and it's a really interesting Ford race.
But next to it is a Shelby.
Well, kind of.
Kinda?
This is a very significant vehicle. This is a Falcon sedan delivery. And this is what Shelby used along with that trailer back there when he first got going to haul cars back and forth to Riverside.
This was his truck.
This was his truck, and it was titled in Pete Brock's name.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it has a full Cobra race engine. I mean, the guys put in.
Yeah.
But it was a tow vehicle. Before he got going and before Ford started really throwing money in his direction. So this with the trailer, if you can catch a shot of that little trailer back there that the very first, the Riverside Cobra's on, that was the setup. And they would haul this, out to Riverside, out in California. And you can see it, there's a cool picture back there.
Yeah, I see it, yeah. Pete Brock and John Olsham, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And in 1963, that's this vehicle, and they're working on the plywood buck for the Daytona Coupe.
Well,
now, there's one other thing I should mention to you about this car. This was driven by Ronald Reagan.
Really?
In the movie The Killers.
Okay.
Before he got into politics.
So how much do you think it's worth?
I have no idea. I mean,
it'd be one of those where you'd have to put it on the market and see where the auction hammers down, right?
Yeah, but we would never let it go because the museum owns it, and it's a very significant car for us.
Well, let's go show them the GT350 that you're auctioning off in less than a week.
Okay.
And we'll wrap up. So guys, once again, if you're into Cobras, come on by on Labor Day, which is in just a little bit over a week, and check out this collection of very rare and very important Cobras. What I love about this collection is that there's this kind of personal feeling, right? I mean, you knew Shelby. There's a sense that this was done with his blessing and with love and with caring for the man, not just a collection of cars thrown together because you have access to these cars. So there's a real kind of personal touch here.
Yes.
It's really unique. It's one of the most interesting museums I've been to, and I've been to a lot of them.
Well, thank you for those kind words. This, the GT350R is totally over the top. I mean, it has the flat plane crank engine.
Sure.
It red lines at 82.5, and boy, it sounds good. And it's got carbon fiber wheels, and of course, as you know, they won the IMSA Continental Challenge in 2016. And with its full independent rear suspension, it's just a dream on the track. Unfortunately, we have not driven this car.
Did Ford give this to you?
No.
No?
They allocated it for us, but we had to.
You buy it and then use it.
But at least we got it list.
Yeah.
Some of the dealers are.
I know, up through the sky. So this is an important fundraiser. It's a nonprofit. Let's answer some questions before we sign off. So what are the questions, Mike? I'll repeat them.
A bunch of questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions.
So James wants to know about the Shelby's Terralingua racing team. Do you know much about that?
That was part of the down in Texas, and that was kind of an impromptu thing, and it was part of the cook-off, and it's got its own.
That's probably a longer story than we have time for. Than we have time for. Anything else?
Yeah, if you want to see the most expensive car,
No, let's show them the most expensive car here.
if you know.
If you know, yeah. This I think
Yeah.
it's this one, right? $12.5 million.
Well, this is our most recent acquisition, and the Larry H. Miller family purchased this at auction last year, and it was $13,750,000, but it's likely not the most expensive car in here.
But what's special about this one?
Oh, this is the very first Cobra.
So very first one, the one that started it all.
It started all. This is CSX 2000.
Okay.
Very, very first Cobra.
But you don't think it's the most expensive one in here?
No, it's probably, maybe the Daytona Coupe. A lot of them are very valuable. There's only 6 Daytona Coupes, and this one won, Daytona and Le Mans and Sebring. So it's very significant. And then we've got next to it, we have an FIA Cobra Roadster that is unrestored. That was driven by Phil Hill, Bob Bondurant, Sir John Whitmore, Joachim Nierspasch, and it has 5 first place FIA wins. And then some of the GTs in the back are also, one of them we acquired in 2012, and it was $11 million back then. So there's,
Yeah, there's enough between the 3 cars here. There's probably enough money to refinance third world debt in a very small Latin American country. But I had this dream after I was here the first time,
Yep.
and I thought to myself, what would it sound like if you actually started up all of these cars at the same time? Of course, you'd probably die of carbon monoxide, but it would be phenomenal. Imagine all those Shelbys roaring to life.
well, if you come back on September 2nd,
Yeah.
we always start cars.
Oh, you will? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll come back, guys, on September 2nd. What time?
It starts at 3
Okay.
on Saturday, September 2nd,
Yep.
which is Labor Day weekend. And it's if you got, you can bring a collector car. We'll have a lot of Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Aston Martins and and Porsches here too.
What time do you do the auctioning of the GT350?
Oh, we'll do that at 6 o'clock.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll come here and we'll go live at 6 o'clock, and we'll see who was the lucky winner to actually get that car, and we'll hear some cars being started up. That'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, by the way, this is our first live show in about a half hour or so. We're going to answer your questions on Friday. We like to do Ask TFL. And so back in the studio, Nathan and Andre are getting ready to answer your car and truck questions, and that'll be about a half hour. So come back in about a half hour when we go live again and we answer your questions. So Steve, thank you very much. I really appreciate the chance to come here and experience this museum. And guys, if you're at all into American muscle cars, the original American muscle car, this is the place to come. And check it out on their website, American Shelby Collection,
Shelby American
ShelbyAmericanCollection.org. Yeah.